Hello, my fellow people of the plant. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Cannabinoid Connect podcast, your favorite podcast that includes industry-facing conversations with the industry's leading experts that aim to educate and inform the public regarding the plant's endless benefits. My guest today is Josh Swider. He's the co-founder and CEO at Infinite Cal. Josh, welcome back.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course. I got to tell you, since we recorded our first episode back in October of last year, I think I have probably dropped your name about 20 different times as I've had new guests on. And it's always come back to that one stat that is it pops out to me every time. And that's how Infinite Cal, sourced over 80% of all of the Amazon products, CBD products or hemp products. And you guys found that there was little to even no CBD in those products.
Yeah, that's what's always been amazing. I mean, times have changed some and it's definitely getting better. It's that initial rush of hemp, I think it's more sorting out and becoming more structured. And we're seeing great strides in the different states to give full regulations in this and not this blanket potency or anyone can sell it. So the first big ones are Utah and Colorado actually doing some great things. And I think every other state's going to be hopefully following suit and checking in this. There's one lab in Colorado that can do full analysis. We're in the docket. About 4 weeks ago, we were approved to even operate in Colorado in our California location. And we're working through the stuff with the regulators right now, where we should be operating very quickly for full compliance in Colorado. And we're working on Utah as well. And those regulations are getting more stringent than cannabis, which is shocking and great.
Well, that was
product. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is so encouraging, man. And that's actually a perfect segue because, that's what I was going to talk to you about is since our last discussion, to kind of kick things off, what has changed, if anything, right? You just mentioned that the regulations are getting more stringent in specific states for hemp. So why don't we talk through the changes that you've seen on both the hemp side and the cannabis side, and then we'll kind of get into other things.
Yeah. So as far as the hemp side, I think it's great. I think some steps forwards have been made by the United States in general, the federal level, and then where we're going to be going. I think there's a lot more direction, a lot more work. But I think we're tackling a huge problem, and then there's always 50 million ways to look at it. And I really hope the regulators really reach out to the testing labs more, because we're the guys that see it all. We're with a lot of us that are the scientists that probably have some great insight on how to help you regulate this industry or how to fix the problems that we currently see, kind of like we spoke about in the past, is that Amazon stuff. I mean, the simple things like forcing the product sellers to require these COAs and things like that, or require a full compliance thing. It's going to be some years on that, but I think there's some great strides forward this year. Now with hemp or cannabis and lab shopping, for let's just say stick with potency just for the simplicity, I would say that has gotten worse. It's a dirty skeleton in the closet. It's still California's gotten worse. Bright side, Michigan gotten better. I really love the fact that update the DCC is in effect in California. Now we have the Department of Cannabis Control instead of the Bureau of Cannabis Control. And I'm hoping that DCC does a lot, really looks into this. This is one thing that we're seeing, and it's one of those industry things. I always take it back and just everyone question yourself. 4 years ago, think about the cannabis being sold. As in the cannabis, even let's stick with flower to make it simple. We could talk about this for days, but let's stick with flower. We were getting 15%, 20% flower was good in California for a THC value. That's what people called good. And then we go ahead and we go up a year. Now the shelf space, only you have to have 25% THC to make it into a dispensary. Okay, what changed in that year? Okay, and let's fast forward another year. Now there are a lot of shelf spaces reserved for 30% or higher. Okay, I understand you can achieve this very rarely, but not all cannabis. A Blue Dream's not going to 30%. So why is it getting on the shelf? Because there's someone out there at a lab space that's really doing profits over ethics, and not really taking into consideration. They're either not doing their diligence or they're turning a blind eye to this, that they have internal lab problems, that they're seeing this. There's no way that this cannabis flower all now has over 30%. There's not been a great increase in genetics in that fast. So I understand there is some, and we do see it even at Infinite Chemical Analysis Labs. We tested a flower not too long ago, 32%. I mean, that's from random sampling. It's there, but it's indoor, good genetics for a high THC. Doesn't mean it's better flower than the other ones that are on as high as THC either. People need to get that thing out of their head that high THC equals better. That's not necessarily true. So let's always keep that in mind. So with that being said, what we've seen over the last year is the new labs coming online. Nothing's wrong with the new lab. It's just it's what's going on when they contact us for whatever reason. We're on like sell list, as in some of my employees are, and me, and I'll get pitched by other labs saying, hey, if you want over 30% on every flower, and this is me on the phone, I'm like, okay, I'll take this phone call. And I sit there and they pitch, oh, we'll guarantee over 30%. We figured out how to give you guys higher results, so we're better than the rest of the labs. And then I'll play into it. I'll be like, oh, I know it's less than 25, but like, it's easier to sell with 30%. These are the phone calls I'm having with the labs. I mean, we've even gone with lab directors jumping on these calls. I'll run these down for kind of entertainment value and just to see what other people are doing, because it sickens me, to tell the truth, as a chemist. And oh, are you having problems with pesticides? Oh, we know how to pass them all that now. Well, actually, wait, that's a public safety thing, and this is one of those things that it angers me that there's labs out there that are willing to do this, and there are labs that are doing the right thing, and I'm not saying there aren't, but there are a lot of them that are just coming in and saying, I have no money, I need money, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get these clients away from these labs, and I'll drop the price so I'm making no money, and then I'll go ahead and guarantee you results. I mean, I can tell you, I have clients that I've talked to people in this industry for so long that I know. I mean, there's people I know that say, you can tell them what you want still in California before you give it to them. Hey, I need this flower 32.2%. And guess what? Their COA and compliance that goes through the whole DCC now, or the BC, comes out at 32.2% magically. I mean, that's one of those things is they offer it. I mean, they offer this on the calls. This is one of the things that I'm sorry, I go on a rant here.
No, go. That's
DCC,
good.
I hope the DCC do this DCC. This is the easiest thing you can do. Layup. Pick up the phone, call the lab, say, hey, I grow. I want to get a 30%. Can you guarantee my results? And they say yes. Then give them a sample. See if they give it to you. Done. Your whole investigation process took 30 minutes to do. It's not hard. And I'm telling you, if you don't think that's a problem in a third-party regulated world, that there are labs guaranteeing offering, even if it's 20% higher, even if it's supposed to be 20% higher and they're giving you 30%, that's a big number difference to these people. I mean, and something is fundamentally wrong. I'm not saying I'm 100% always right, but I'm saying this. I've done my research, back end, front end, tried to run this flower a million different ways. We're working on something. We're going to write a paper that points out every way you can do things wrong analytically to achieve higher potency results. So, I mean, I'll be happy to share that with the DCC or anyone that's willing to. We'll probably publish it in the paper. We're just going to go down and do this, pretty much this comparison. This is the way you should prep it. If you do this, if I do this dilution factor, if I do this kind of way of prepping it, or if I ignore homogenization or whatever it is, I'll start giving percentage errors. So if I follow all the wrong paths, I get 40% higher results. If I follow all the correct paths to make things chemically sound or getting consistent results, oh wait, I get a relative 40% lower. So I'll point out the problems where it is. If anyone ever wanted to jump on a call with us, I'll gladly point them out on the phone. I already know them all. Why? Because I developed a method sound that gives me results, so I know the bad ways too. Right. And that's one of those things that I think we need to do as a lab community, is realize, what are we here for? We're here for public safety and analytical results. If you're not an analytical chemist, maybe don't be in here. Maybe don't be directing a lab to say, hey, I can give 30% if I do things wrong, and I know it, but I get more money. You're in the wrong industry. Go sell cannabis. Go produce cannabis or something. Right. That's something where you could be a producer. You are a scientist. You are here for public safety. That's all I want to push to all these people doing the lab shopping stuff. The thing is, I can't blame the people doing the lab shopping, because there's labs out there that give you different results that are just as certified as I am. That is a problem. Mm-hmm. That's a systemic problem that needs to be fixed. And where does it need to be fixed? The only place it can be fixed is the DCC. Right. It's not that hard to fix. Michigan. So like I said, California, I really hope we get there.
Let me pause you real quick because you threw a lot out there and there are a lot of good points. And so first and foremost, I love the way you've set the foundation in the role in which the lab, plays, and that is consumer safety. First and foremost, you are testing these products to ensure that there are no harmful pesticides, heavy metals, et cetera, for the end consumer, right? And there are all kinds of intended and unintended consequences that happen when you're a lab that's operating in the lab shopping kind of purview, right? And of course you're risking the health and safety of the consumer first and foremost, and also and there's a number of other reasons things that you're doing, but you're also giving ammo to the prohibitionists, in my view, because a lot of what they're talking about right now when it comes to consumer safety is high potency THC products, right? And the fact that some of these, if not most of these products, are not at the high potency levels that they say they are, it's just fueling ammo to the prohibitionist side when those products aren't even high potency THC to begin with, right?
Yeah. So I saw a graphic from one of these prohibitionists, and it showed the last 10 years, the THC concentration in flower going from 4% to 12% currently. And I was like, oh, I wonder where they're getting a metric. It's actually 30 now on the COAs, but that's not fuel their fire some more. But
I know, right?
It's like they were way off, but it's showing it. And it was actually a good little graphic. And I was like, it's kind of funny. It keeps raising, but I think it's raising for a different reason. But
right. Well, and then you brought up the DCC and how and for those listening and for me, I'm not too familiar with the DCC. So to explain that organization and what they're doing now to help regulate and enforce.
So the BC, so in the state of California, when cannabis was brought into legalization, as in the full compliance testing and everything else, we had different sectors regulating the whole industry. So the Bureau of Cannabis Control regulated the testing labs, distribution center, etc. And then we have the Department of Agriculture doing California Department of Agriculture doing the farms. Then you have the Department of Health regulating all the production. So when you make vape pens or you're making these edibles, so we had this spread community, and it's a very difficult thing, I think. You're saying, hey, we're going to deal with cannabis, and we're going to do it in the different sectors, and all these cannabis producers, processors, everything need to deal and figure it out between these things. So a lot of times, I mean, even as a testing lab, we cross the sectors because we see all these products. So then, so you contact the BC. Well, we don't deal with that. We go ahead and give you the CDPH, and it's like this whole thing that creating one entity was really important. I think they've done a great job doing so. So what I'm saying is all those entities that controlled the whole industry now is one. It's called the Department of Cannabis Control. So they're going to be having all the segments kind of coming together. And I think that'll help with being able to talk within the DCC instead of being different regulators and not making sure, not going to make mistakes. I think it'll only help the whole industry being controlled by one thing, because essentially a cannabis sector is one thing. We want to make sure that is. It's the same with like alcohol and things like that. You'd want one sector doing it, alcohol, and then even if you made a popsicle with alcohol in it, it's still controlled by alcohol. So that's one thing I think it'll help hopefully bring a lot of these concerns to an end. But it's new, and I understand it's the same thing as every other government program. I feel it's always short-staffed and under-budgeted, and there's some great things coming already that I've heard. I'm not sure if I should be saying them, so I'm going to leave them out. But changes with lab shopping will stop, and who will pay the biggest price? It will be the producers that are willingly lying to their consumers, that know about lab shopping and doing it. There's one day that is going to come to light that you are doing that, and you are tricking your consumer, that you are putting fake package claims and stuff. And I really hope that people do their diligence on their testing lab. Just because the testing lab is giving the highest result for THC or for potency analysis, maybe they're not doing things correctly. Maybe they are. So if you truly feel that's the answer, is one lab gives you 40% higher relative results than every other lab, maybe you should question that one lab. Is that one day that'll change, and then it's going to be good.
Is that day of reckoning, that day of change, is that specific to the California market? Is that
that's specific to California?
Okay.
So I've been talking about in California. I can go to Michigan. So Michigan's a different story, and I love the way Michigan has. I mean, we've always kind of spoken with them, and that I love the the speaking back and forth with Michigan as part of the lab community. They want our advice. They're like, oh, you guys do see everything. We are willing to make changes, and I think California has a little more stringency, and it's not the people there that's the problem. It's the backbone. Everything's so hard to make a change in California. But out in Michigan, every 6 months the regs are rewritten. So we know this is the problem, or they're looking at simple things like, oh, if flower is above a certain percentage, every day I look at the metric results and organize them by THC percentage of flower. Everything above a certain number, I go and look at, and I put a little check next to it. This lab did it for this company. This lab did it. This lab did it. This lab did it. And then they start questioning the lab. There's simple things out there like we every few months we go ahead. All of our samplers go to one laboratory. The MRA, it's called out there, gives out samples from someone's backstock and says, okay, this was already tested. Let's see what happens when 10 labs test it. Oh, it was 30% flower. Every other lab just tested it at 20%. I wonder what is going on here. And it's not very hard. They're doing their job and they want to make sure that we're getting things safe. The other thing is safety. I mean, they want to make sure things are safe. So they're even going and spiking samples and at the lab, making sure, hey, if I go send this with a category 1 pesticide out there, they don't have category 1, but for example, like chlorophenicol, I spike it, everyone sees it at 1 part per million. These 5 labs don't even see it at all. Do we have a problem? Easy answers, easy solutions. I'm not saying shut down the lab. I'm not saying take crazy action on them. At least you know it's a problem, and at least you can flush it out. I mean, the protocols that are in place right now in most states are becoming ISO certified and things like that. I love it's good, but it's not the answer to this problem. You have an ISO certification does not mean you run day to day every day with the correct results. It doesn't show you that you have an error in your lab. And I think some of the labs, they don't know they have the error, so they're operating and they don't know it's there. So they're not doing anything bad in their eyes. But that's the thing, is that we should all be able to find out a lot better, and how with the state that's regulating us, that we do have an error, that we are getting potency high or low or right in the middle, or we are missing pesticides or heavy metals or whatever have you, or we have complex matrices. People don't, I mean, that's one thing I've always been striving on, is the amount of matrices cannabis has is insane. And what I mean by that is people always call us cannabis testing labs. I'm like, you mean every testing lab out there in one? So chemistry is just analytical chemistry. We dabble in every type of analytical chemistry: environmental, food, pharmaceutical, lotions, cosmetics, every type of analytical chemistry we now do, because they put THC and CBD in it. So it's insane. It's like you become the lab of all labs, and that's one of those things. People need to treat it that way. You can't have one method to run all your. I can't run my cannabis flower, my distillate, and my lotions the same. Right. But I guarantee you, there's no one method to do it all. It's the same way as we buy an instrument. It's not a magical box. We just put things in it, gives us little magical numbers out. If you think that's what you're doing in analytical chemistry, please go back to school and relearn what you're doing, because you are not doing it correctly. Right. That is not magic. I don't say I'm a surgeon because I cut my chicken up at night. So stop doing these things and think about it. I'm not saying everyone does it, but I mean, there are people out there. It's just one of those things that really, I think it could be fixed, and it's minimal effort. And I don't think it's necessarily like, shutting companies down automatically and stuff like that is what I'm saying. Help people understand they're doing something wrong. And then if they're not willing to fix it, then maybe they can't be in the industry that's regulated. I mean, take action. Yeah. Right. If I fail school, I don't get a degree, right? It doesn't make sense. So it's one of those things, but I think Michigan's doing a great job and always being proactive on it. I'm just going to leave it at that. DCC, I believe that I have great hope for them to do that. Lab shopping. I mean, that's only talking really about potency. We could sit here for 4 hours and talk about it.
Well, and you talked about how like you can't have the same method of testing for all these different product formulations, right? So are there any kind of patterns that you see when it comes to unscrupulous testing, when it comes to like flower as opposed to vape cartridges or topicals? Like it sounds like the potency issues are kind of stem from the flower, but does that bleed over to vape cartridges and sublinguals and topicals? Like, what are you seeing in all those different formulations?
So the potency problems one normally is this. It's because normally when you do sublinguals or lotions or edible products, people want the correct results. So what I mean by that is they know they have this product that need to make 10 milligrams per piece. Now, they need to know, they know they need to get there. They're formulating and making it. You know, if they added 20 milligrams, they're only getting 10. They're concerned, but if they figure it out, maybe they did a calculation error, which we see a lot, or things like that. But at the same time, those are easy because normally, like, people are like, "Oh, I'm happy with the results. I made what I wanted." It's not. I grew flower and I have no clue what I made, but you're going to give me the highest result. You
Got
kind of see
you.
what I'm saying? It's the same with distillate. That's one of those scary things too. I mean, I have a lot of good friends in this industry that, you know, we worked with for years, and we had this one recently that is distillate tested at 88%, and he told him he needs over 90% in his final product, and he went to a lab, had it tested, terped it 20%, so it should have been at 70%, and it came back 92. So by diluting it, it came back more on a compliance COA. And I was like, that's amazing, you know. It's just one of those things. You have over 100% showing on a COA. It's insane. So where do you see the biggest problem is flower, to tell the truth? I don't know why there. I think it has something to do with people don't understand their dynamic range or looking at flower differently, homogenizing their flower as a lab, making sure you're doing things according to the regulations, not just Josh does them because he wants to be the best at it. It's because it's required,
Right.
and it gives us all a level playing field. Things like that, the small bumps. I mean, we see things like dry flower getting 20% moisture. Why? Because we do everything by dry weight. I can bake the heck out of something and get a higher moisture content that's fake that just ups all my potency results. That's not there. I mean, it's one of those things. Yeah, go cook it at 500 degrees and burn it, and then you're going to lose a lot of things, all the terpenes, everything else. If you're doing water or moisture correction, you should just be looking at the water, guys, that we're losing. There's ways to do that. There's proven ways to do that. Just those things, easy things to bump. So that's kind of where the competition is, and it's a consumer demanding higher. I want higher results. I want higher THC. I can't, you know, it doesn't make sense. I think you want to find a good product that's out there. And I think stop depending that number, because I bet you anything is people will find this vape pen that's really 70% better than the one they're buying at 90%. And if they consume it, tastes better, gives them a better feeling, or helps them with the whatever ailment, the CBD or whatever it is. So don't always just rush to the store and say, I want the highest one. I don't go to the store and buy Everclear. Do you guys? I mean,
Right.
Maybe
Exactly.
when I was 16 or 20 or something, you know what I mean? But not when I'm a grown man. I mean, you're going to the store and buying good products, right?
Right.
At the same time, it's not always the highest of something that's going to give it to you. That's why, I mean, I applaud a lot of the manufacturers out there that hold that line and say, hey, I'm not looking to post those results or bump them and everything. And we're actually, you work with them. So the biggest industry, in my personal opinion, currently that has the most potency inflation is flower.
Flower.
100%, hands down. There's a few labs out there that are doing it. I'm not going to name names. That's not my job. I know whose job it is. I can tell you it's 3 letters, DCC, but that's it.
Right.
It's easy, yeah.
And you know, it's like with the whole potency thing and your point about like you don't buy, as a grown man, you don't buy Everclear. That makes a lot of sense, and it seems like to go back to the education level of new consumer entrants in the industry. And it kind of goes back to what we believed to think was true about the sativa and indica effect, right? Indica in the couch, sativa more of a, you know, clear like coffee buzz, which we've learned that is not true, right? Because there's so many other factors that go into these particular strains, the secondary compounds, the terpenes, the flavonoids, you know, what cannabinoids are in that strain, all to kind of make up that entourage effect that we talked about, right? And I think that one thing I think that the industry could do as a whole a little better is the education around these misconstrued common like ways of thinking, right? So to your point about high potency, you could have something that gives you a better feeling that has more of a rich terpene profile or more secondary compounds, and that could be way more beneficial and a better experience than a product that has 35% THC, right? So why don't you expand on that, right? Like you know the science of that. So
so that's one thing we've always been pushing too, is so we fully validated now 19 cannabinoids to be able to test. Actually we can do 21, but we left it at that, and we can do that in one analysis. and get that back to a producer. So what my theory, I respect terpenes and agree terpenes is important. I'm not sure if that's full effect. Not. I truly believe these minor cannabinoids is what we're looking at, and start to where you're getting these differences. So when we talk about high potency, what we've been saying during this whole time is high THC concentration. Actually, we've been really saying high delta 9 THCA concentration. That's what we've been talking about in this conversation. So high potency, really, when we say potency, is cannabinoid content. And when we look at cannabinoids, okay, and there's a lab looking at 6 of it. What 6 do you look at? The requirement for the state is 6. So we're looking at 19. So you start seeing these minors pop up. And what we really, the thing is, when you start thinking about it, pharmaceuticals or anything, small amounts can give you big dramatic effects. And then when we start mixing these things, they're giving you better or worse effects for you personally. So looking at things more like your minor cannabinoids or your exotic, where some people call them, I think is more important. Maybe that therapeutic effect of having the THCV or the CBL in there it makes you calmer, or whatever it does for you. I'm not going to make claims on that. That's not my job. I'm not doing medical research to see how it makes people feel. And to tell the God honest truth as a scientist, I think that's all going to be personal based. I don't think there's an answer saying you take this CBL and you'll feel this.
I agree. We all have different body chemistry, right? And we all respond to these minor cannabinoids differently. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah. I think that's the thing that people should really look at. And that's one thing we've always strived to stay above the curve. I mean, we're at 19 now. The thing is, we'll gladly add more, but the thing is, I can't buy them because I need to be certified and I need to buy reference material. The reference material doesn't exist. So I can only go as fast as they'll let me go. We work with various companies out there that do this, and we always push them to get some more stuff in. And then that's one thing we love to do is work with these companies. So the thing I would say to all consumers listening to this, stop buying the product based on, I see highest THCA concentration there is in the world. I mean, the other day I saw a 54% THCA on a compliance package. It's a lie, number one. Two, I mean, it doesn't even make sense. But if that's, just go buy the THCA crystalline and smoke it. Why are you smoking the flower? I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. But definitely, those are the kind of what we're seeing. And I would strive to start looking at the more exotic things. So this is the other thing I would say. When you go into any store, if you want to see the whole results and they're not providing it to you, stop shopping at that store. Sorry, people are going to get pissed at me for saying that. But I'll tell you this, my employees, I send out to go ask them about COAs and stuff at the store. Oh, we get them, but we throw them away. We don't give them to the consumer. This and that. What the heck? You don't give them to the consumer. What's the whole point of this? Public safety, you have action levels. What if my choice is I don't want to smoke permethrin because I have an allergic effect to it. Right. But there's an action level to it. So there's an allowable amount, but I want the one with 0. Why can't I see that COA other than it just says pass? I need to see the whole thing. Get educated. Tell them you want it. Cause a demand. That's what makes changes. Me yelling it on this call does not make changes at all. I've gone to this dispensary and gotten kicked out. And I'm like, give me the COA. No. We throw them away. We don't have them. So that's the other thing the state really needs. And DCC, I think, is a great thing they can work on. This should all be accessible to every consumer in the state, and that's a public right that you're selling a product. I should be able to see what's in it. Considering that they made an action level, that's a state choice where they recommended. What if my choice? I want non-detect pesticides on all of them always. Right. I should be able to see that information. I should be able to see all the THC or the cannabinoid concentration. I should be able to make that decision for myself, not a state saying, "Hey, this is safe for you to consume." You don't get to see the results. I know the states always say they tell the retailers to make it accessible, and I'll tell you this for damn sure, it is not accessible at all.
Well, and it's almost like these dispensaries that choose not to give that information, the COAs, to the consumers. They're gonna be doing a detriment to those brands in the future, because that's a best practice right now, and that's kind of what we're educating consumers on in the industry. Is it's a super red flag if you can't access a COA to a product right then and there. That's a red flag, right? And as you said, regulation is going to come. It's inevitable. The day of reckoning will come. And if you're not doing basic things like just informing the public and consumers about what is in these products, then you're way behind. Yeah.
And that's something that the manufacturers, there are great manufacturers out there that do this already, is they go ahead and they put all that on a QR code or on their website and that posts to the actual paper COA for the compliance stuff. One more step, someone takes a picture or someone Googles it, they go to your website, they can look at the actual sample with the batch number on it. I mean, to me, that's you showing how much your clients you care. I mean, that's the problem is the dispensers are so damn busy, I think, and they're understaffed, and it's hard to do it. But having some kind of system, I think that's almost a public, almost like we use metric at both locations we have, but metric almost universal everywhere. Metric almost should have a consumer login thing where they type a batch number in. How easy would that be? I mean, done. Now we're done. Now it's no longer. I mean, you can check to make sure what it says on the package is. It makes sense to me. But that's a scientist's perspective. That I care about consumer safety, and what do I know?
Well, you're in the right position then, right? I mean, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and that's a good thing. We need more people like you. And Josh, you mentioned that the state mandates that you, or the minimum to test for cannabinoids is 6, you mentioned, right? Is that in California or is that nationwide?
California, Michigan, I believe is 7 or 8. I can't recall.
Okay. And you said that Infinite Cal is now up to testing up to 19 different cannabinoids?
So we're fully validated on 19. As ISO certified on 19. Now the validations with the state takes a lot longer. So we got ISO certified for 19. We can definitely see it, and as an analytical chemist, I'll say it's a damn good job is what we've done. And then realistically, we can do 21. I'm talking about the Delta 10. So Delta 10 has different isomers, blah, blah, blah. But that's where it gets a little tricky. But yeah, we get full resolution on 19 different cannabinoids on one single run. Why? Because I love chromatography. That's why. Shout out to like people like Sean from Phenomnex even. This like us nerds care about it, and we always go back and forth and try to make a better method of each other. If you're not doing that as a testing lab, maybe you shouldn't be testing.
Right.
I tell the truth. This is like, why am I in this industry? Because the love of what I do as an analytical chemistry and love of the cannabis and the culture and everything else. But that's one thing you should really strive on, is becoming a better lab or figuring out something that can help the consumer or even your customers. I mean, we're really a lab that's here for the customers as well as our clients, but most of our clients are there for the consumer too.
Right.
And that's kind of the way it shakes out.
I mean, that's the end goal. I mean, is to make sure that the consumer is not harmed, right? So that makes sense. And so you mentioned Delta 10. I know that's been like a new emerging cannabinoid. It's trending right now. And then also, of course, Delta 8, right? So I recently had what was his name? Kleb from Leaf Report on to talk about their specific study about Delta 8 products. And they basically sourced them and tested them. And, not surprisingly, they found that a lot of these Delta 8 products have Delta 9 THC in them, right? So does Infinite Cal do any Delta 8 testing? If not, what is your outside perspective of Delta 8? And then you did mention Delta 10. So tell us what Delta 10 is and what y'all do and what you've found within testing that cannabinoid.
So different states, different things. But Delta 8 is nothing new. Delta 8's been around. So about 4 years ago, people used to try to do extraction and extracting your THC from your trim and creating your distillate. And we used to see people make Delta 8 by accident, or they were trying to clean. Remember the water clear stuff? A lot of Delta 8 was made back then because they would do things ignorantly, like buy carbon filter to clean the color out, and that was treated with sulfuric acid. And then it would create this chance for you get a sonorization of the molecule, the bond. So Delta 8 all is moving your bond around. Delta 10, you're moving your bond a different way. It's the way you name something. So the thing with Delta 8, people used to do this and they called it garbage. That was the funny part. The cannabis industry would mess up and, I screwed up all my stuff. Now I have a bunch of garbage. And then some years later, we're down here now, and Delta 8 became a hot topic. And I'll tell you my honest opinion why. It's just people are taking CBD, the hemp material, and it's cheap material, and creating Delta 8 with it, Delta 8 THC.
Right.
Now, we could talk for 6 days straight if that's legal or not. And I think the easiest answer is go read the WHO papers and the DEA articles that cite each other. And maybe you need to be a little educated on that to see the truth behind it. I'm just going to leave it at that. If that's legal or not, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not
the biggest loophole of 2020 is what I'd say.
I don't think it's a loophole. I think people are going to get in trouble.
Yeah,
but that's my opinion. I'm not a lawyer. Delta 8. So now they're creating this Delta 8 stuff. Does that have Delta 9 in it? If you make Delta 8 from CBD material or any other material, it's going to have Delta 9 in it. I don't care what conversion you have. Any chemist would say you're not going to be getting 100% of that mixture of Delta 9. Unless you do another step, and then that's going to be some kind of purification step. I mean, you can even get 99% compared to 1% ratio, but it still has Delta 9 in it. So is it legal? Well, 0.3% is hemp. Well, most of these things have a lot higher 0.3%, especially during that creation. Normally, they'll get 80-20 is very good, maybe 90-10s, as in the ratio between the two.
Mm-hmm.
But even at that, if you have the purification step next, they still have it. So we've done this stuff in the past and looked at it all through the future in different states. And we've seen, some labs out there. We've been a part of these studies unknowingly and unwillingly. Not unwillingly. I don't. Just call me and tell me you're going to do the study, and I'll do it. I'll do it probably for free for you. I'm more than happy to shed light on this kind of crap myself. So the problem with this is it's being sold in grocery stores. People are kind of, and this maybe not is someone's intention to do, but they're selling it and people are believing it's different. So if you work at a job where you can't consume Delta 9, and now you're going to buy this Delta 8 stuff, and you think you're getting a pure Delta 8, and you're going to fail your P test and get fired and ruin everything you have, I mean, that could be problematic. So realize that Delta 8 is a regulated molecule by the DEA. It is, hands down is. So the state of Michigan announced on, I would say last Thursday, that you no longer can sell that in the stores, at regular stores. You can only sell it in cannabis shops. That was announced.
Wow.
It's going to follow suit all around the country. You can't just sell that stuff in stores. There's a lot of Delta 9 in it. We've seen. I don't know how many phone calls I've been on and called an idiot because I don't know what I'm doing because it tastes good or something by Delta 8 manufacturers, and there's no Delta 9 in it because they don't get that high. I mean, that's kind of like the always argument. You don't know what you're talking about. You only tested it. You only run analytical instruments that tell me what I have, but you're wrong. But then we have great manufacturers out there that we worked with in the past that created Delta 8 that wanted to know what they really had. But I can tell you this, you go send it to 10 different labs, you can have 100% Delta 8 when there's 50% Delta 9 in it. And that just comes to do with chromatography and resolution. I mean, there's labs out there that aren't really regulated by states or are brand new that, I mean, I remember when I first ran, so on my logo, it's funny, people don't realize it, on my logo, there's a chromatogram on my logo. That's the actual first time I ran potency analysis in a 1,200 square foot lab 6 years ago by myself. It's just the chromatography of it. So the first thing with Delta 8 and Delta 9, it's harder to separate. It's not impossible. You get baseline resolution. The big thing with that is when you talk about baseline resolution, you have to have a very high concentration differential. So if I'm getting 80% or 90% Delta 8, and only 10% Delta 9, you're going to have a really big peak up here and a really small peak. Does this get drowned out? Does the tail and the fronting? Make sure it doesn't. Do your job as an analytical chemist to make sure you're not washing those peaks out. I think that's why you're seeing a lot of people saying, oh, there's no Delta 9 in it when it's all Delta 8. It's because they're just having tailing or fronting going on. They're losing out their peak.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how many chromatograms I've sent to companies proving what I'm doing is right. And they're like, well, this lab says it a different way. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I can tell you what's right as an analytical chemistry standpoint. I can't tell you what that guy wrote on a piece of paper. I'll gladly jump on the phone call if anyone's ever want to have discussions about this. I'll gladly jump on the phone calls with other labs. I don't mind. I don't mind having science discussions. I don't treat everything like I have as a secret. I'm not going to go out there and publish results though for people to do. I mean, I know that's a big thing in this industry. Everyone should use the same methods. Everyone should. Okay. I don't think that's realistic. Then should we say every manufacturer has to start with the same oil? Every manufacturer has to produce the flower the exact same way? No. Why? Because you have a competitive edge because what you do is better than your other competition.
Right.
Same as me. I can run methods faster. I can run them more accurately. I can run more precise and more accurate. So that's what I use. So why would I give that away to my competition? Because then I think it promotes the wrong thing. And this is what this industry has always been built on, is people coming in this industry that are not chemists or not necessarily have a know-how or don't even have the right staff that have the know-how to create a method. And they go buy these methods from an instrument manufacturer that is not allowed to have real samples on the premises of their manufacturer or the manufacturer of the instruments. So they just go ahead and make these standards and then send it out, and they don't look at all the problems. And I don't. I mean, I actually have a problem with a lot of instrument manufacturers, the way they approach this, selling these instruments to blindly and pressing button blindly, and that's why we get these things. Well, not all the labs are trying to dupe people; they just don't know they're doing it wrong.
Right, and the industry is moving so fast, right? That I mean, to give some of these lab owners or these operators the benefit of the doubt is like they're just trying to go with the flow, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
like, and in some cases, you know, a lot of this due diligence and a lot of these correct methods that you should put in place are kind of missing the mark when it comes to the end result of the
Yeah.
tests, right?
Yep. I think that's it. I mean, this is the other thing, the kicker about it. Okay, if my pesticide method always gave me 0 pesticides, how much easier would my life be? Because I run a lab, I get yelled at when people fail, and people are upset when they fail. If everyone passed, would I get a lot of negative feedback? And I would think I was doing a great job because all my customers are really happy with me.
Right.
That's not what you're here for.
No, that's not what you're here for.
No. But that's the thing that happens. I get on phone calls with lab owners, and they're like, "Well, all my clients are so happy." Yeah, you're giving really high results and no pesticides. I would be happy too, I guess. You know. But then
perfect track record, right? Like,
yeah, perfect. If you have a perfect track record as a lab, you have a problem.
It's like that. It's like that saying: if you're the smartest guy in the room, then you're in the wrong room, right? Because this stuff is inevitable, and that's kind of a clear indication and red flag if a testing lab is promoting that, right? I mean, of course, you want to be as accurate and as you know, on your game as you can, but the reality is, to be 100% is probably unlikely, right?
No. And then I mean, the thing is, there are labs out there that say on these phone calls, I call, and I'm legally allowed to call whoever I want. And I pick up my personal cell phone and I call all these labs. And I say, I'm thinking about opening a grow facility. Oh, sure I am. I'm never going to do it because I couldn't do it. 1, 2, I'm not really thinking about it. And I ask them these questions like, I need this and I need that. And I know all the right answers to questions to ask. And it's alarming that I've talked to large laboratories in both states, even, or many states, that say, I will give you more favorable results. That's their selling point. I've developed a method that gives higher potency results.
That's crazy.
No one ever talks about accuracy. They're saying I give higher ones. So that's one of those things. Even the producers, I know it might be hard to deal with getting lower results, but at the same time, one day this comes to an end. And if I was a consumer, and the whole time this guy told me I was buying these pens at 94%, and they're really 74%, I would be pissed at that manufacturer. And that one day will be coming to light. Same with the flower manufacturers, same with everyone else. Maybe take a step and do things right and force the dispensaries to stop this buying technique or minimum for shelves. And we kind of change that way. That's all done. I mean, we change it as a group, and then you let the bad actors fizzle out in the long run. Because I'll tell you this, I didn't start to come to this industry to change results or give you what you wanted. I came to the industry to do what's right for the consumer and what's right for the producer, if they know it, like it or not. So we're here to stand our ground, and we'll always check our methods. We'll always check people's samples. We get calls all the time like, I know this is higher because I smoked it. All right, I'll go back and do my science again to figure it out that we are right, and you're smoking it is not the right thing. But we do, and we gladly check ourselves. We gladly have more overconfident results. We do so much on the back end to make sure we never produce a bad result. But the thing is, we'll always check it. We'll make sure we're right because that's what we stand by. And I mean, we build trust in our customer base that we are giving them the accurate results because we will gladly do that kind of stuff.
Right. I would imagine, as the co-founder and CEO of a testing lab, you would have to have the skill set of patience and an understanding because with all the science, the real science that you're doing, and then you have, you know, anecdotal evidence from others, you just gotta navigate those conversations, I would imagine.
Definitely. And then that's the other interesting part is this company is founded by 2 scientists, and it's ran by all scientists. I'm not ran by, and we're independently owned and operated. I'm not ran on a profit margin. If I'm going to suffer losing clients because I'm not giving them what they want, I will take that hit gladly as a chemist. I don't think we're going to go out of business, but I think there's enough people out there that'll do the right thing, and one day this will correct, and people will come back because they realize we weren't doing something wrong, and maybe the right way was to do it. So we'll gladly stand by any kind of losses or profit margin decreases or whatever we have to keep that right. And if this company dies because of that, then I will ride it to the ground and let it die because I'm not going to do that kind of stuff. I'm not going to increase potency inflate. I'm not going to pass your test results that you fail so the consumer's potentially harmed. That is one of those things. I think taking a stand like that, there are some labs out there doing this, but I'll tell you this. Every single day we lose clients or we can gain a client. because we won't do the potency analysis. That's the biggest prevalent thing in the state of California. Michigan's not as bad with that, but it's coming around. I think that's a problem that we need to look at as a whole, as a community, as a regulator and everything. Start with the easiest thing to look at is the potency inflation. Then go from there, because the tests to validate are a lot harder after that and a lot more complex, and there's more excuses. But I mean, I just did a round robin because I remember the old excuse with flour. Well, if you homogenize it differently, there's so much variation. No, there's not. To homogenize the sample, there's not. So what I've done in the past is we've done this so many times. We'll homogenize and send them out and things like that, and then non-homogenize, and they get the same result. So it's not that, it's someone inflating it. So it's just another leg to stand on for someone that's doing something inaccurately or intentionally inaccurately, to stand on saying that they're getting different results because of that. It's not. It's just another inflation method.
Right. Well, I got to tell you, I do respect and appreciate, Infinite Cal's stance when it comes to doing the right thing and upholding the integrity of these results. Because like you said, it's inevitable, it's coming. The day of reckoning will happen. Regulation will be put in place. And these bad actors that have been operating for the longest time and in this kind of profit-driven mindset is going to end. And Infinite Cal will be, one of the top, performers because they've been doing the right thing for so long.
And
Josh.
that's one thing you said the producers should understand as well, is make sure you're not tagged to that bad horse. As in, you've been running with the first testing lab you ever ran with, and they've been doing things, inflating potency or missing pesticides. The day that it's actually the reckoning day, or the day that the regulations come and see that, there is things any state would have to do if they found out there is patent or incorrect information on a product. That's called the recall. I don't think any producer wants recalls. I think that'll give you a negative light on your company. 1, 2, you're going to lose all trust with the customer base. So I think doing things right, there's great people out there in this industry. I don't say who they are, because I'm a third-party testing lab, and I uphold that. I don't promote my products. I don't put someone's cannabis product on my website and make on my individual saying they do it right and they do this potency. Why? I am a third-party testing lab.
You're objective.
That's not my business.
Right. You're objective.
I'm not promoting someone. I feel like I've seen some stuff where I'm like, I guarantee that lab's getting paid by that company to promote that product. And I'm like, I can't believe that's even happening. Go do your blood work next week and then say, why aren't you promoting my blood work on your website? Or who does your blood work? You're never going to find out. That's one of the things, labs, we shouldn't be here as these companies that are lifestyle brands. I've heard that before, and that's not a knock at any one lab or two. I don't think we're lifestyle brands. We're analytical chemistry laboratories. But I mean, back to the point, that's one thing they should really look at is what is your producer doing, and just make sure that your testing lab's doing the right thing, because you're going to get caught on the back end of that thing when it comes to light that maybe potency inflation is rampant in California, or pesticides are dropped, or heavy metals not being done right. All it takes is one consumer's complaint about a product to be the DCC now that something is wrong, and then they should be looking into that. So I hope it happens more often than not. I challenge anyone that we're doing something wrong to challenge us we're happy. I'll tell you this, if you call this laboratory, that's one thing we did too, is customer service. I'm not trying to toot our point. I'm saying you're not going to get a phone call with someone that doesn't know what's going on. You'll get on the phone. If you're questioning a result, you think something's different, you'll get on a phone. I mean, I jump on the phone call still as much as I can. I mean, I do a lot of things, but I have PhDs, other PhDs in chemistry that jump on these phone calls. I have the people that run the sample. We don't just say, go talk to someone I pay to answer my phone. No, get on the phone with the scientist. Figure out what we're looking at. We'll gladly show things. We'll team you in to see these results to say, hey, why is there that big delta 9 peak and a big delta 8 peak? I have no delta 9 there. Okay, if I'm looking at the screen, I see this. Tell me why I'm wrong. And we'll gladly do that stuff for all our customers. I don't care if you test one analysis a year or 1,000 a day. You still get the same treatment at iCal. Doesn't matter. It does not matter. If you're questioning, if you want to learn more, we're glad to jump on the phone, glad to put you on with the right people. And that's what I strive the other labs to do, is we're the liaison of science, I feel like, and of analytical chemistry. So act as such. Don't just tell your clients to hang up the phone and say, well, that's what you got because you got it. Or, question your lab, see what they say. That's your challenge as a producer.
No, and that's the way it should be. And it's again, like I mentioned earlier, it's good to see companies like Infinite Cal really spearheading and blazing the trails when it comes to how to do it right, and how to operate in the space with integrity and producing results that are accurate. And
Yeah.
so, Josh, I really appreciate you coming back on today and sharing an update as to the current state of the lab testing space, both on the cannabis side and the hemp side. And I know that you mentioned when we first started that you guys are, embarking in different studies and different
Yeah.
things. So anything that comes up that you think is worthwhile to share with the audience, I'd love to have you on, man. So,
Definitely.
just know that that's a platform that you can do that. So,
Then
as we
that's the
wrap,
one thing too.
yeah, go ahead.
One thing to mention too, we currently operate in California and Michigan, as well as we're moving into Arizona as quickly as possible and the other states to follow. We'll be in 3 to 4 states more a year as Infinite Cal, and we're continuing the growth because it's needed in this country. I believe we need at least an analytical lab or two out there doing the right thing. And so any producer that wants to work with one lab, I'm sorry, I'm plugging something right now. I think it's beneficial for all these people to make sure you're not having to deal with it, go insane and deal with 10 different labs that are doing things differently. Find one that does it right. I don't care if it's iCal or not. Just do something right, everyone.
Yep, I totally agree, Josh. Well, thanks again. Where can people find y'all's social media website if they want to learn more?
Yeah, infinitecal.com. You'll get directed to the state wise. And then, I mean, I'm probably the worst at this. I'm not a big social media guy, but I have people here that work here that do. Yeah, Twitter and all that jazz.
I have the links, so I can add them in the YouTube description box. Don't worry about that. I got you, man. Awesome.
Yeah. All right, perfect, Kevin. It was really great to be on the show again. If you ever need anything or want to have a round robin conversation with some people, I'm always interested in that as well. And we'll have a great time, I'm sure.
I love it. Yes, I'll take you up on that, man. Thanks again for your time, and thank you all for listening. Bye.